Well, welcome to Be a Refuge. We have some special friends with us today, Katie Hinshaw and Savanna Smith, who help run our Refuge Reads program. So welcome, friends.
Thank you. We're excited.
Thanks for having us.
We're so excited. You're the first time that we've had two people on at the same time. And I really love that actually, because it embodies something that is super important to us. And that is that sharing part of that you two are a team. And Refuge Reads is 6 years old this year. Is that right?
Yeah, in July, we'll be 6 years old.
6 years.
Yeah.
And I think Refuge Reads, we're going to learn a little bit more about it. I always tell people, as I give tours all the time at the Refuge Cafe, and I always make pitch for volunteers and share the area where space is. And we love kids being involved. So we love their voices and we love them to be a part. So but one of the things about Refugees that I always say is just that it's a free community literacy program on Tuesdays and Thursdays that is for kids through grown-ups who are struggling with reading, writing, and spelling. And so is that accurate?
Yeah,
like in the basic?
Totally accurate.
Okay, so that's what I say. And the other part that I want to say as we start and hear more from you is that the formation of it is like total refuge style. And that is that someone gets an idea and says, I really want to live this out, this dream, this passion, this thing, and bring it. And the refuge says, okay, we'll do our best to support you. We don't have money and we don't have all the things, but what can we bring? Support, love, space, time, and connection. And so I think it'd be awesome for everybody to hear kind of how Refuge Reads was founded and your roots to go, and then what it's evolved to today.
Sure, yeah. So Refuge Reads, like Kathy said, we started almost 6 years ago. So in one of the previous podcasts, I know Kathy had talked about the transitions team. And so I was a part of that. I'm Savanna. I was a part of that transitions team with a bunch of other people. And it was hard, but it was incredible. And out of that, Kathy introduced me to a friend who I'd known but not really connected with, Angela Dormish. And we just kind of went to coffee, and this dream about a literacy program for anyone and everyone kind of erupted from that friendship, that initial meeting. So it was actually the transitions team, I think, that pushed it forward. And we kind of were one of the first programs to be brought to the SAS team and kind of pushed through. And we had decided in the beginning, okay, if we can raise our own money, then this can happen. That was kind of one of the things. If we can raise our own money to get all the curriculum needed. And in the first month, we had raised enough to like get 3 of the curriculum levels that we needed to kind of just get through the first year. And that was kind of this like aha moment, like, okay, this is definitely necessary. This is needed in the community. And we brought people in. And right from the start, we were kind of booming. There was such a need in the community for kids, adults. We've had all the way from kindergarten kids all the way up to one of our graduates was the 65-year-old woman who was amazing, and she loved it, and she was so dedicated. So it just kind of grew into this beautiful community of people that just come together for one defined purpose, and that's to bring literacy into their lives, because literacy is the foundation for so many things. Math, science, social studies, literacy is just such an important element, not just to kids, but to adults. So that has kind of where we started and what we've evolved into. COVID hit us kind of hard, but in true refuge style, we kind of just winged it and went along with the flow, and we were able to push through, and here we are now. We're kind of rebuilding the program a little by little, but we have a core set of students and tutors who are really committed and come every Tuesday and Thursday, and it's just beautiful to see that community that started 6 years ago with a little dream kind of unfurl into this, I don't know, like a safe place for a lot of people. It's become more than just a reading program in my eyes. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So when did you come in, Katie? I don't know if I
Yeah,
don't know
so
that story.
yep. So I came in about 4 years ago, and it was before the pandemic. And so my child was struggling with reading. I was a stay-at-home mom. I had been a teacher for lots of years in title schools. My passion is title work, which is the underserved privilege population. And so my son was struggling with reading, and I started looking at tutors. And because at this point I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was like, oh my gosh, we can't afford a tutor. And so I reached out to a friend who was kind of navigating me through. My child who is struggling is dyslexic, and you don't have to be dyslexic to come to our tutoring program. But this program was also created to teach dyslexics who really struggle in reading. So she said, oh, there's this place that does free tutoring, Refuge Reads. And I was like, nothing's free. And she's like, yeah, I think it's a church. And I was like, oh, okay. And I have my own relationship with the church. So I was like, oh Lord, I will study if I have to. I will do what my child needs to do. So I emailed Savanna and Angela, and they're like, yeah, come on over. And so we pretty much started right on board. I had a friend that was in need too, and we ended up swapping tutoring services with each other. So I tutored her son, she tutored mine, and that's kind of how we got started. And I kept waiting for them to like, oh, you should come every weekend, or, come commit your life here. And finally I asked Savanna and Angela, and was like, so what's my commitment to the church? And they're like, oh, no. This is just an outreach hub program, and you just do what you need to do. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then I really felt like totally welcomed, and we just loved it. So much so that when Angela had to step out, I felt like it just kind of naturally fit that I just kind of stepped in with Savanna, and we've been together for the last 4 years running it. And so it's gone really well. So that's my story, how I came in. And then with that, I'm really active in kids identified with dyslexia, the Co-Kid program. And so they've supported buying us and BBSD kids. They've supported buying us 2 of our levels. And so, and we also work in getting regulations changed in public schools. So with that, but that's still a ways away. And so there's still a need every day. Kids need this program, and adults. And so our wait list is always growing. And so that's kind of how I came into it. So I love it. And my son is doing excellent today. He is reading on grade level and is doing amazing.
That's awesome.
It's so inspiring. Honestly, it's so inspiring. There's so much in there about this kind of barrier to church, but this desire for a place, a community, a place for your kids, a place to serve, those kinds of things. And that theme is always so strong in our community, and it's confusing. And that's a little piece even of Be a Refuge, is just to kind of help people understand more what this all looks like in life together. And I do kind of wonder, I've only been there a few times. I mainly come to the parties, and I love I love the community there, and I see the kids, and I see the grown-ups, and I see how grateful they are for this space, and that it is more than the tutoring, like you both said. It's this community. And so, like, if anybody walked in on a Tuesday and Thursday night, like, what does it look like?
Well, I mean, we're kind of spread out all over. You'll see the tutors, which are all adults, sitting with their student, which could be a kid, it could be an adult. You'll see them with tiles out, and you'll see them with workbooks and big things where they're really tactile. You'll see them talking to each other, or maybe playing games. Katie and I will be mingling, either talking to people who maybe have walked in like off the street and want to know more about the program, or we'll be helping out a student who might need a little extra guidance with their tutor. We'll be answering questions. So you'll see a lot happening, but it's also pretty quiet because everyone is trying to maintain this little, okay, we each have to stay in our little bubble. So it's quiet, yet it's busy. So, which seems a little silly and a little counterintuitive, but it just kind of works. We'll have kids in the back room. We'll have kids at tables out in the front room. We'll have kids in the office, or there's sometimes kids playing in the nursery. So we're just kind of spread all over, and you'll see all different areas of growth happening. You'll see kids who are learning their sounds. for the first time or their phonics. You'll see kids who are learning spelling rules on one side. You'll be kids who are writing. Like, it just kind of varies. You'll see a lot of good work happening, and you'll see a lot of relationships forming. We love playing games. That's one of our big things we really push. And so you might hear people playing Uno or Slap It, and that is when it gets a little noisy and a little rambunctious. But I think the biggest thing is you'll see connections happening that wouldn't happen otherwise.
And another part of just being the community that we are and that we formed in our own, just our Tuesday, Thursday nights is you'll see somebody bringing in like, oh, I have jackets for, another tutor brings in a jacket for another family that might be in, like, oh, my daughter's outgrown this. Would you like it? Like, even stuff like that happens all the time. It's just this, everything just kind of works out. We had a family that was like their coffee pot broke, and it was like, oh, okay. And then the next week, somebody came in with one, and it was just like, oh, well, we know who this could go to. And so even at that level, just the community that happens is just way more than education, but you'll see lots of education, of course, going on.
That's awesome. So how do you get your materials, and how does all that work? And, like, are you guys like amazing experts in all of this? How does that work?
We try our absolute best. Yes. Well, we had a lot of fundraising done in the beginning. Angela, who helped start in the beginning, she is an amazing fundraiser, and she helped get us the first 5 levels over our first year, which had lasted us for a really long time. And then, as Katie had said, BBSD gave us a grant to buy another level. And then we were able to purchase the 6th level. And then over time, we got another grant, I think, from CoKid to get the 7th level. So we are up to the 7th level now. And so we just keep getting these opportunities. Right before we hopped on, we got an email from the Colorado Literacy Foundation that does an auction every year, and they're taking application for literacy nonprofits to be able to put all of the profits that they have for an auction every year. And they asked us if we would want to partner with them. They have this whole application, but things happen like when we need it. It is incredible that the community just comes up and supports us in incredible ways. So we use the Barton curriculum, which they have 10 sets. And so every step of the way when we've needed it, something in the community happens to where we are able to bring it to the students and the families. We've never not had the resources or the ability to have the curriculum for our families, which has been, it's incredibly mind-blowing. It really has been. I don't know if you can say more, Katie, but that has been an incredible part of this.
Yeah, any moment that kind of, Savanna and I volunteer. This is our passion, or what makes us happy. I know for me, it's like, I kind of want to go back to, I kind of need to go back to work full time, but I'm like, nope, can't give up this because it just fills my cup. But with that said, I feel that every time things get a little like frustration, you have a wait list that's growing and you're like, what are we going to do? You just like put it in the universe, and it just seems to all fall itself out. Like it just kind of rolls out and happens. So I think that has been the most amazing to watch. It's taught me patience, which I've needed for a while, like to just be patient, but like it really works itself out. And it's so rewarding to be on the other side and be like, well, I did not see that coming a mile away. And here it is, just showed up in like a lumpy package for you, but we'll take it. So yeah.
I love lumpy packages. And what I love in listening to you, I mean, this is why it's so inspiring to me too, is that you both get this thing that we've been talking about here, even in these first little set of Be a Refuge. And this is the power of just small and simple and faithful and true. And that, you know, big dreams, I love big dreams. Big dreams are cool. But, you know, sometimes in the big dream, like takes the place and distracts us from just the steady Eddie showing up and building a space where people who wouldn't normally have a place to be can be. And so just seeing that and hearing that and knowing that for 4 years, you two have been together and you guys are a really amazing team. You really are. And watching you work and then watching you just honor small, but mighty and small. You know, it's not small. It's small by a stupid measure that a lot of other people have. It's like influenced so many people, and it's changing and transformation is happening. And so I just really want to say that out loud. And then I kind of want to ask, like, what keeps you going? Like, what keeps you like showing up despite those times where you're like, gosh, this is hard. It's 2 days a week. I know you guys trade off, but it's a big commitment. It's not a little commitment. It's a big, like heavy lift to like keep going. What keeps you going?
I know for me, it's kind of what we were talking about, these little things that just kind of happen at the right time, that just kind of show you this is a beautiful thing that needs to keep going. I remember like even thinking back to Katie right before she showed up, I had those thoughts because it was me for a little while just by myself. And I was like, oh man, this is a lot. I don't know if I can keep doing this. And within a couple weeks, Katie showed up and like she jumped right in full force. And I was like, okay, we can keep this going. I mean, it's hugs from kids that are so excited when they run in the door and they're like, oh my gosh, Savanna, Banana, like we're here. And they run up and give you a hug. Like, it's a parent coming in and really excited to show you their kids' progress from parent-teacher conferences. It's all of these, like kind of you said, what you would think of as small, not insignificant, but small little things that pile up to make something so big and beautiful and powerful. There's been moments where both Katie and I are like, oh my gosh, I don't know, like only one kid showed up this week. What are we gonna do? And then the next week we have like 5 people show up to an info night and they're like, I want my kids to get help. And it's those little things that kind of just show you, just keep going. You can keep doing this is making a difference. This is even in one person's life. This is making that little boy who runs in and yells Savanna Banana. That's making his night, and that makes it worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Love it.
it's so true. But for me, it's my core value. When I was younger, I always wanted to be a teacher because I learned through my son's diagnosis that I was dyslexic myself, but never knew. And I always thought teachers had magic answers that they weren't giving me. So I was like, well, I'm going to be a teacher and I'm going to make sure all kids learn how to read because it's dumb. And I hated reading out loud. Oh God, I spent more time in the bathroom because, you know, I'd count the kids who was counting, you know, before it's your turn. And so that was like intrinsically ingrained in my stomach that I was going to make that type of an impact with other people. And then I went into teaching and, you know, that happened and realized that's not how that works. And so then, now that I've learned so much, and Savanna and I become professionals in the realm of reading in our way by studying and learning and taking courses, we learned that oftentimes how reading is taught in the public education is not 100% correct for most students. It needs to be the signs of reading, which is what Barton is. And so with that, my core value is that I leave this earth helping others be able to learn themselves and teach others how to read, right? Like if I can empower our 65-year-old woman to read when I tutored her, and she can now read the Bible, and she can now teach her daughter, her grandchildren to read. You know, she'd come in and tell me, I taught them how to read this passage. Look at the story we're reading. I mean, that is so fulfilling. Just like Savanna said, we get to see their report cards and growth cards. So all those little things that add up. But in the end, I have a true core value that I am going to leave. The earth has given me something so amazing as a life. And so I want to share what I've learned with others. And one other thing is that even people come to us, we'll have like 5 or 6 people show up at an info night, and we can't maybe be there for everybody. Like our program might not work time-wise or commitment-wise for every single family, but we are able to give them next steps on how to help their children. Savanna and I have resourced our area, and we know lots of like where you can get tested or where you can get more reading support and all these things. So we've become like this little hub of like, oh, call the Refuge, they'll help you. Call Refuge Reads, they know. So, you know, we've kind of become this hub of information too, which is really fun.
That's awesome. So for folks who are maybe unaware, you mentioned you serve adults and kids, and I think there's a lot more awareness around kids with neurodiversity and that kind of stuff, but I don't think a lot of people realize how many adults really struggle with literacy. And so if you have any statistics around that, just to share with folks, because I think it's kind of striking.
I love data.
Yeah, data. I do too. Let it rip.
Data. Yeah, so it's really 1 in 5 Americans are impacted in struggling readers. And it's really, if we tested everybody, 1 in 5 come up on the continuum of somewhere in the struggling of reading. And so when you break that down into a classroom, when you think of a classroom as typically 25 to 30 students, you have 5 to 6 students that are automatically just going to struggle with reading the way that it's taught, if it's not taught using the science of reading. Just, 3 cueing systems, run. If you hear that word, run. Get your mouth ready, run. Those are not the ideal ways to teach reading. And so when you're just start at 6 kids in a classroom of 30, that's impactful. And that's, huge down the line. And so then when you look at adults, when we look at our testing scores for reading, we have 33 to 45%, maybe 50% proficient readers. That should be alarming to people. These students we've had this data since, testing started years ago, and they have exited out and graduated high school, and they're really inefficient readers. And so it's not just 1 in 5, but it's way more than that. When we've got 3rd, 4th, 5th graders reading, 50% of them are at grade level. That just should be alarming. And so when you look at that, that's typically where it goes. And then often people who struggle to read don't always have the right tool set to get them through college or to get them, to further their education. They were so traumatized in their elementary, middle school, high school education of reading, whether reading out loud, whatever, so many things that they just shut down and have their own struggle with school. And as a teacher, I would see parents come in that they were trauma from schooling themselves, and they just want to help their kid, but they don't have the tools to do it. And so we step in and can definitely help do that.
And I think when you get adults that struggle too, there is a lot of shame around it, but there's also a lot that don't even realize they have an issue until they get into the workforce, until they get into college. Because so many kids with dyslexia or kids who struggle with reading who are neurodivergent tend to be what they call twice exceptional. So they're really bright. And there is this theory that kids who are really bright can't have any sort of dyslexia or neurodivergence, which is completely bogus in my brain. You can have both. You can have the law of multiplicity. You can be both and. And so you get adults that have worked really hard and they've come up with coping skills into their adult life that have gotten them by. But then they want to come in and they're like, this isn't working for the long term. I need something stable. And so what we try to do with adults, with kids, with anyone, is we kind of break it down. We go down to the foundational level. We start very at the basics. So everyone has to go through level 1, even adults who see it and they're like, oh my gosh, I know all my letter sounds. Why do I have to do this? Because we are trying to rebuild this foundation of literacy in their lives. We want them to tear down whatever sort of foundation they had, because it's probably a shaky one, because they've had to internalize and do the best they could with the tools they were given. And so we want to give them tools that they can use in order to have more confidence in themselves and in their own skills. And so this program allows us to do that, which has been an amazing gift. I know Katie, she tutored the 65-year-old who was with us, and she was so incredibly thankful. She is an amazing seamstress, like incredibly talented. Her boss won't let her retire because she's that good. Like, she is incredible, but she's made her way in that world possible, even though she couldn't read. And she came to us and she's like, this has been my goal since I was a child, was to be able to read. And when she left us, like, she was reading beautifully, and that's like such a gift. And she made her goal. So she made this extreme goal, but we had to start from the beginning. We had to rebuild the foundation and rebuild that house so that she could have that confidence. And she did it. Like, that's an incredible feat. And I am so proud of her. And it's just an incredible thing to watch and witness.
She's now teaching her grandkids to read.
She is.
Ah, it's amazing. Well, I'm thinking about this, and I think, Joe, this is like, I can feel that too, this executive coaching, executive functioning coaching thing that gets underrated, and you both are in training in the coaching program to finish that certificate and bringing this to the Refuge. And tell us more what that is, and kind of what that will help with for people struggling in this area.
Yeah, we're super excited to bring about executive function coaching. So we want to bring classes to the Refuge that would be free, like once a month, that just teach people tips and tricks about how to like organize their, whether it's homework or work or life in general, and just how to dig into that executive function piece that a lot of us, I think, in the technology age, we have missed out on. And the neurodivergent community, I mean, if I don't have my Google Calendar, I'm lost. Like, if I don't have everything mapped out for me, I'm lost. So that's like my coping mechanism I use. But we just want to be able to reach this different group of people that I think both of these kind of intermingle, whether it's dyslexia or struggling with reading or neurodivergence, they all kind of match up in some way. And Katie and I are both taking different courses, so we kind of have two different methods that we can bring to the table, and we can kind of look and see, okay, what works in yours and what works in mine, and we can kind of bring it as a full-on program to the Refuge. And we want to just offer it because it's such an important thing, not only for kids, but I think for adults.
And the other part with that is my course is also, we have a continuum, like, so we'll offer a test, an assessment, kind of, I mean, not like a real assessment, but you know what I mean, an assessment, it's inventory that will say where your strengths are in executive functioning. She Peg Dawson lays them all out, and so that's a class I'm taking, and you know, it shows you your strengths and then it shows your weaknesses, and so giving tools to support your weaknesses, and like, okay, so you're low here, so we can do these strategies and try this and that, and then build your, you know, build some systems in there so that it helps you become better. And for Savanna, it's calendars, and for other kids, it's, or other students, it's, you know, and adults, it can be, you know, prepping 5 minutes at the night before, but how do you build in that habit, you know, all those like building in habits and stuff too. So yeah.
I'm excited about that. I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult and struggled with that my whole life and didn't realize it. And, you know, I masked it a lot growing up. And so my parents didn't really know. And even I didn't really realize, I think I'm also slightly dyslexic, and I learned that at your like open house thing that I went to, because we were going through these examples and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so me. And yesterday I was writing a card, and it was like a card for like a sympathy card, and I spelled something wrong, and I do that all the time. And then like once I spell it wrong, I can't remember, like simple words like niece. Like once I write it and I spell it wrong, I can't remember which way is the right way. I'm like, is that right? And I look it up on my phone. I literally do that at least 20 times a week while I'm writing. And you know, if you're typing on your computer, it autocorrects for you, so you don't have to think about it. But like if I'm handwriting things, like I do that all the time, where I stop and I can't remember how it's spelled. And I was like, oh, wait, this is something, you know, and it's not been so severe that, you know, it's hindered my ability to get an education and different things. And I do read fairly well, but I think that's another part, is it's a spectrum.
Yeah, it really is a spectrum. And I'll just offer that is 50% of people with dyslexia often have ADHD and vice versa.
Okay.
That's very common. And even autism, they're all like, you know, we're learning that they're all overlaying in each other. And so Yeah. So it's
It's all about the brain.
Yeah.
that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh, you know, I'm all about that brain. All but brain. Oh, God. Well, we
Awesome.
got any final questions, Kath, before we do our rapid fire questions?
Yeah, just one last thing. Like, what do you all need?
Volunteers. Always need people who love other people and just want to help out in the community. I mean, it is a big commitment. It is only 2 hours a week, but it is a big commitment because you're pairing with someone who you're probably going to be with at least a year. So, I mean, it is something, I know it's asking a lot for people, but we have found some really incredible people who have volunteered. And one of our volunteers who I love to pieces, he worked as a chemist and he came in and he was like, I've never done this before, but you know what? I'm going to give it a try. And him and the little guy he tutors, they have the greatest little cutest friendship. They're like best buddies. And he is doing amazing. Yeah. And it's like people that do come in have been amazing and super committed. And it is such a gift to see that. But definitely always volunteers. I know every time Kathy asks that, what do you guys need? I'm like, volunteers.
Volunteers. Well, and I'm just going to re-emphasize that, like, you provide all the training. So you don't have to be a teacher.
Yes.
You don't have to
No.
like have a degree.
Nope.
Like
You don't even have to really be very good at reading.
Yeah, you can learn alongside the kiddos.
Yeah.
Yes, you really can.
So the program we use, Barton, was actually created for homeschooling parents so that they could teach at home their own kids who have dyslexia or just reading struggles. It was created with a script in mind. So it's all scripted. So you could just read the script if you wanted. A lot of people get more into it, of course, but you could just sit there and read the script. It really is easy to learn. And once you do it, we have another tutor that she is like so excited about the program. She's bringing it to her church and like wants to start something there. And it's like that easy where she had never tutored before and she's so excited about it. She like dived in. So it's, if you're worried about it being too challenging to learn, that's definitely not something to worry about. And if you have something you struggle with, Katie and I are both available all the time. And I'm always on my phone, unfortunately, but if you have an issue, and we're always there to support during tutoring times.
Yep.
That's
Oh my goodness. So much awesomeness. Refuge Reads at gmail.com. This will be in the show notes and stuff too, but just thank you both for your love and care. It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
No.
And the transformation, the healing, the presence, it has it all. The celebration, it really does have it all. And I am so grateful that we get to do this together.
And I
We are too.
As somebody from the outside who, learn about this later, I am so grateful for your brain, all this brain power that has thought of the refuge, because it is just so much more than just a hub. Like, you guys are impacting so much. I just think like when I step back and think like just my little piece of it and what you all do, wow, what a big imprint we get to leave when we go forward. So
It's really incredible.
For hosting us and having us there.
Oh, thanks, Katie. And I'm glad we didn't scare you away by making you join things and sign up for stuff and pray and things. All right, here we go. Rapid fire question. I'm going to start. Okay. What is one word that best describes the refuge for you?
Community.
Joyous. Joyfulness, just joy. Like, even when I'm having like a rough day, I show up and there's something joyful to bring you back to like, you know what? It's always a new minute. There's always something new to be happy about, even in the hard stuff.
I love it. Okay, so finish this sentence. I keep connecting with the refuge community because.
Oh, I keep connecting with the refuge community. So I have been part of the refuge community for a very long time. I was listening to one of the earlier podcasts and I was like, oh my gosh, I was literally here a year, because I remember the wedding hall. And I was like, oh my gosh, so that's crazy. I keep coming back that it is just so life-giving on so many, like, I have come when I've been at a really good point in my life, and I've come when I've not been at a good point in my life. But anytime I've come, it's just so incredibly life-giving on all sorts of in all sorts of ways. And that is just a beautiful gift for myself and my kids. My kids love the refuge, and so it just is such a gift. Like, I can't even express it. It's just such a gift.
Yeah. I keep coming back to the refuge because there's always something to learn. Whether I meet somebody and they tell me a story and I'm like, oh, like there's a class offered, or there is always something to learn. So, or I go research something for one of our students. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. And yeah, so I just love, I've obviously a nerd, love learning by audiobooks, not by actually reading. So yeah.
Same. All right. The most irritating part of the refuge is.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's this one thing that Katie and I, it always happens, and it's just specifically for the Refuge Reads, so I'll just stick with that. There always is random unknown things on top of our shelf every time we come in, and we're like, I don't know where this came from. I don't know where to put it. It's here. What do we do? And it's just so funny because we ask people and they're like, we don't know. It just showed up there. And we're like, okay, I guess we'll figure out what to do with this. So I guess we've talked about that. We're like, did you put this here? Did I put this here? I don't know. So I think it's more funny now that we think about
Yes,
it.
it is.
But
actually
in the
funny.
moment, it may be a little irritating, but it's kind of funny.
Especially when we try to keep our area clean and we're like, what now? So there's a bin of like a crap all bin that I just eventually throw things in there. Of course, Savannah, she's so organized. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous because I can't stand looking at it. So it is pretty funny now. But in the moment, we're like, and how many did they leave us? Like, we don't even know what it's for.
Is it like, it's like on top of your shelf?
Yeah.
Maybe we should
It's
get
just
those
funny.
like pigeon spikes. You know what I'm talking about? But they use in New York. Anyway.
I'm for it because I'm super
Yes.
irritated by random things showing up in that building in the weirdest places. And so
Really, the weirdest places.
feel you. Empathy. Okay, last quick question. Being part of the refuge has helped me blank.
Oh,
Well,
being
has helped me better.
part-
Has helped me to be a better parent. There we go. That can't get out.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's helped me grow in a lot of ways. I've done a lot of growing up while in the presence of the refuge, and I've grown in ways that I couldn't imagine. And I think, yeah, it's a lot of growth.
Awesome. Oh, so good. All right. So we have a closing round we do, and we just say we're leaving this episode with a little bit more or a little bit less of something. So Kathy, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm leaving with just a little more inspiration. I feel really inspired by this conversation today and just being with you.
I'm leaving, I think, with a little more like hope and rejuvenation for this next chapter.
I'm leaving with a lot more excitement. I love talking about the Refuge Reads. So like, you have no idea. Just like, tell everybody, even on the bus. So like, yeah. So I just, and yeah, energy to go forward.
I love it. I'm leaving with more hope, just like for myself and others like me who are neurodivergent, and just also a ton of gratitude for what you do. And like, that's a lot. It's a lot. I know it's like, yeah, you said 2 hours a week, but you're there and that faithful, like plodding through especially on the days when you're like, I don't want to be here, you know? So thank you for, for your faithfulness. And yeah.
Yeah, we can't wait to hear about executive coaching. Can't wait. And then if you're listening and you hear kids in the background, we want you to know we love that. That's like our favorite thing. These are two moms taking care of a lot of kids and teaching and all the things. And so we love it. And that's a piece, I think, that I just want to celebrate, that kind of we're all in this together, all the ages, all the things, just doing the best we can to do what we love to do. So super fun to hang out with you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you. We love you guys.
Love you too. Thanks for being a refuge.